This is my mom and dad, Mary and Jeff. This is my sister, Tessa. This is me, Colin. The first part of this documentary series, we explored the beginning of the haunting of my home in South Dakota, heard stories of spirits in the house, and then took a trip to North Dakota where we discovered the origins of the haunting of my family and saw how far back this whole story spans. If you haven't seen that already, I'd recommend watching the first part before you view this video. For those of you who have been waiting for this, it's time to hop back into the story and learn more about why my family is so haunted and the reasons behind why this haunting became so intense. Welcome to the Paranormal Files. Strangely enough, years and years before I began my career as a paranormal investigator, I filmed a spoof of ghost adventures at my grandmother's farm entitled Ghost on the Farm. It's pretty bizarre to see myself so young acting exactly how I would go on to act later in my professional life. Here are a few clips from this video. Enjoy this, I think it's pretty funny.
Hi, now I'm going to investigate this room here. This is one of the rooms where the specter has been reported to have been sighted. You just caught that, right? That wasn't me. Already, first minute, and we've still got some good evidence. I've set up an automatic heat camera to take pictures of me about every 20 seconds. Ghost, you know you're here. Please, give me a sign, if you can. You just caught that, right? I mean, can you knock again if that was you? We have a ghost here, people. We have a ghost. Whoa! What was that? Whoa! I am getting free. You just heard that, right? I'm the only one in this house.
No, you're not.
Amazingly, only seconds after we heard these voices, we captured the image of a specter in the window above my head. Thanks.
Mary and I found ourselves back at my grandmother's farm attempting to find some answers as to why my family seems to attract so many spirits. It was time to investigate the farm. So we've been sitting here for a little while, trying to feel the energy of the house. We have to talk quietly because we had Nona, my grandmother, stay in the house and sleep to see if her presence would bring in any spirits and or people that were familiar with her that have died. But so far we felt nothing and really had no experiences, but we've been here a while just kind of sitting around, and we're gonna head to the basement and ask a few questions before I head outside for the night. Notice place is such a familiar smell. No readings on the EMF. Let's go check this room out. .3. Oh, did you get that on camera? I think so. There's a .3 right here, right when I open the door to the basement. That was actually kind of weird. Yeah, I was not expecting that. So, a lot of people who aren't from regions that get cold have never really been to a real basement, and Nona's basement has always been kind of creepy. And there are a ton of different artifacts down there from different people who, a lot of whom have died by now. So if there's going to be some sort of an energy attached to stuff, a lot of that stuff's going to be in the basement. So we're going to go check it out. Point 1, point 5, point 4, point 3.
Didn't do that at all.
0. No,
Weird.
they do that all night at the high school that we were at. Let's see if it's something to do with the floor. Nope. No wires down here. How about up here? Could it be something up here? Nope. Oh, that was weird.
That was weird.
Grandpa Norman. Anybody else that could be here at the farm? Can you please make your presence known if you're here with us? Still nothing. This basement is also filled with a lot of creepy stuff that might influence your mentality if you come down here, but right now I'm just not really feeling any sort of energy in the house. Point 1 though, right when I said that.
Oh, that's weird.
Right when I said that there was nothing. Point 1. Point 2. 0.
Interesting.
Someone might be with us. Point 1 again. 0. Right when I said that. Is there anybody back here? Point 1, right again. Maybe they're back here.
Not sure you are.
Is this one of the Ericksons?
Dad, are you here?
Point 1, right when you said dad.
Norman? Are you with Colin and I?
Norman, are you here? Do you have something to say to us or Nona? All of a sudden, the audio in this clip just drops out. This never happens to us when we film. Strangely enough, right as the audio drops, we seem to capture an orb on camera fly by on the bottom right side of the screen. Was this paranormal? You watch and decide. Norman, are you here? Do you have something to say to us or Nona? Well, that was weird.
That was weird.
I always felt like it was Norman that... Oh, right when I said Norman again. It keeps coming back.
We're standing by his dark room.
This is his dark room right here?
Where he used to
Norman.
develop his pictures.
Look it. Norman, is this your dark room right here? Oh. That's crazy. So this is his dark room? I'm telling you, it's not like intelligent energy. It's like some sort of like dormant energy.
Like residual?
Residual, yes. Look at that.
And then grandma stores some stuff.
Spider webs.
Really?
Norman, are you in here with all of your old equipment? I'd love to meet you. It's 666.
Oh, weird.
No matter what, I love you, Norman. Thanks for coming through if that was you. That was weird. Point 3, right when I gave it to you? Point 4, point 3, 0, right when I handed it to Mary. Norman was your dad that we think we might have contacted.
Yeah.
It was kind of cold right here, actually, just now.
Very cold right here.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's
it's like
point
right
one.
here. Point 1.
And then went back to 0.
Felt really cold for a second. Kind of just got better. Let me just get a couple of these things on camera. I really just wanted to get this thing right here.
Oh, that's creepy. And then look at the right below it.
Ugh. Such a low handle.
Were people that much shorter?
I guess.
All of the items downstairs tell a story of their own. These are pieces of history that have accrued over generations and tell the story of my mother's side of the family. These items reach from the humble beginnings of the pioneers who settled this very land all the way through the present day, and I 100% believe that the fact that they are piled up in the basement of my grandmother's farmhouse is contributing to the intense energy and haunting that the property holds.
So, Mary and I have been down here for a while now. I'm trying to read the energy. Felt some weird stuff come through kind of in the back area, back where Norman, my grandfather who passed away a while ago, back where his dark room is. Maybe he came through. Yeah. He's the one that I've always felt comes through in the house because he lived here his whole life. Mm-hmm. He's buried literally right down the road, so there's somewhere to come back to. Mm-hmm. It's right here. Now, Mary's gonna go to bed. I'm gonna head out alone to just check out the rest of the farm grounds and see if I can feel any other energy or hear anything, and kind of put a close on investigating the farmhouse. But I'm gonna go do that now and we'll see.
What was this?
Looks like the stairway from The Conjuring in the darkness. Well, as you can see, the farm is right there. That's the actual farmhouse. It's behind me. And I'm now alone walking out on the grounds. Here's the building that's always kind of creeped me out. It's the garage. There's the farmhouse right there through the tree. And there's the moon above it. So over here's the old slide. All the kids used to play. Here's the old destroyed teeter-totter. It's crazy to think about how fast time flies, even me being a kid and coming out here. It's crazy. It is so calm out here. It's incredible. There's something big moving around back there. Hello? Shouldn't have this light on because there's so many damn bugs. Oh, I just saw a light in the trees. What the hell was that? So many bugs. Hello? Well, that's odd. There's no more animal noises after that. It came from right here. Turn off. I would have seen and heard it run away if it was really right here. This is exactly where it came from. Hello? Well, that was just odd. Yeah, so I'm basically out just in the enchanted forest area. Well, that was weird. It sounded like an animal moving around back there. Called out to it right away and tried to get it to respond or at least run away. And no noise. And I went back and looked the exact area where I heard it. I've been here a million times. I know exactly where noise comes from, and there's nothing there. Not saying that's paranormal, just saying that's just kind of weird. At this point, I've been out here around 45 minutes by myself, and apart from hearing those weird noises in the woods right when I called out and everything, it's silent. But I shouldn't say that it's silent because there's an energy to this whole property, which is why I wanted to make this video. I was hoping that it would manifest in some way, but it just didn't. And you know, folks, I can't bring you this feeling. I can't take what I'm feeling here and put it on the screen. It doesn't happen. And that's what I hate about making paranormal videos, is that half to 3/4 of the experience is
in person. It's not able to be captured. You can't capture it on camera. It's how you feel and what happens and the things that go through your mind. All these buildings have been here for such a long time. They've seen multiple families raised and sent off into the world, and each person that's been here has left their mark. There are just so many objects around that have had so much meaning to people, you know. A wagon out back that pioneers used to get here, a tree stump from my grandmother's honeymoon, old cars in the shop, my grandpa's old motorcycle in the garage. So much stuff, and all of those items have energy attached to them. But yeah, I'm gonna call it a night and head to bed. I love you guys.
When the sun comes out on the farm, you can't help but feel at peace. It's like nature is talking to you. The birds sound happier, the insects don't really bother you, and the sunlight feels warmer. There is a really great energy there at my grandmother's farm, and it is an energy that has fed generations of my family and a feeling that one can just sit and bask in. To end our exploration of this history and haunting, we headed out with Nona to some old spots in the immediate area that hold deep personal meaning to her, including the gravesite of my grandfather Norman.
Yeah, I did.
Somebody from Sioux Falls in Texas had to come to North Dakota and clean off that stone. That's really bad.
I know. It was the whole thing was covered in dirt yesterday when I came.
Something has been doing that, because look at all the dirt piles. Some animal.
Oh, Norman.
Your grandpa.
That would have been 2018 years ago. That's crazy. Time flies.
Yeah.
So how long did you guys go to the church for?
Been in this church for 72 years since our.
Yeah, since you were married, so
Yeah.
72?
72.
That's crazy. And have
Doesn't seem possible.
no families that come, are they like dwindling down a lot?
Yes, very much so. There's only 4 or 5 families left.
How many people would come in like the 40s and 50s?
Probably 50 to 75.
Every Sunday?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's all.
The church would have been full.
How many people is that? Like 12, 15?
15 on a Sunday.
Wow. What do you think is going to happen to the church?
Well, eventually, I'm sure it will close. And right now, they're thinking about, adjusting the schedule so they could probably have one service for all the 3 churches that work together. But I don't know. I think that's down the road. Eventually, I'm sure it will close because there are fewer families now living on the farm than it was then.
So right here, so here's the church, here's Norman's grave, and then the farm is in what direction? Can you point it?
Down the road here, a mile. Yes, a mile away.
It's actually that,
That's the farm right there.
the one with the big pointed, what kind of tree is that? The really tall one.
I think it's an evergreen.
Because I always see that one, that's how I know that it's the farm.
You can tell that my grandma misses my grandfather Norman. She never remarried, and after his death she continued life as usual and has been one of the biggest influences in my life in the way that she has shown my entire family how strong of a woman that she is. This is a woman that fell down a flight of stairs, broke her hip, and crawled back up the flight of stairs to get help while she had a shattered hip. It's unbelievable. However, we still weren't done with my family's story, and we had a few spots to stop by before we headed back to South Dakota.
Now
Say it one more time for him.
This is one of the pioneer farms that were started out here. They belonged to that church, and now there's...
This was one of the first farms, and now it's completely abandoned. Everyone's gone.
It was an early farm too, but they've kind of kept it up better, and there are people living on this farm. He was one of the pioneers.
It used to be like people living, you know, just think about there.
Yeah,
Like people, like, you know, so many families everywhere. Now there's hardly anybody. And the big farmers have kind of just taken over instead of so many small farmers.
Yes,
Not really the family farmers anymore.
hardly.
It's crazy.
This was, one of the pioneer, but they got a kind of a newer house a few years back. You know what that was, a pioneer family. And this one up here that you're going to is original.
Kind of looks like his pickups here. I don't know, that might be just an old
I think it's an old pickup because that's always been there. We always say the same thing.
I don't think he's here. Let's go.
Like if time passed. Seriously, that thing right there.
This was a farm that was used for a Sunday school picnic. Every June we would have a picnic here and a program. And the fellow that lived here was very accommodating and nice to the church people. And so we would come and have a service in the morning, and the children would sing, and then we'd have a noon meal, and then in the afternoon we'd have all kinds of activities, games that they would play, and everybody had a good time. And then we'd go home and we'd come back in the evening and have a Lutheran League program and probably do some more games. And it was the highlight of the church to come here every year for our annual picnic.
God, it was the highlight. Everybody is like, the picnic is here. And this house was perfect. And he still lived here. And so we'd go and look in the windows and be like, oh my gosh, he still lives in here. None of this stuff was here. And that little house right there, isn't that where they would do the cooking?
Yes.
All the women would come, and men hopefully, and prepare the food. We'd eat there, and then they had the program in that big building. In between those trees back there, they had it was a wooden concession stand, and they had the cold bottles of pop in the ice water, candy bars, and you would get to go up there and buy treats, and it was the highlight when you got old enough to work in the concession stand. But it was you spent the entire day here, and it was so fun.
And back then, this whole property was not destroyed like it is now.
It was pristine.
It was perfect.
Yeah, there was nothing.
He took real pride in keeping his farm up. It looked like this.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Let's have some really fond memories here.
Oh, yes. Everybody looked forward to the annual picnic coming here to have a good time.
Yeah.
And now it's just kind of sitting here, decaying, really, sadly.
Is it his, would it be not his grandson, but a relative owns it now? A younger one. But if you could just go back and see, all the kids running around, the people, adults sitting around, that concession stand back there, and then they'd have some lights back there.
I'd love to see that. I would love to see that. Wow.
I know if you could find any pictures, that'd be super cool.
Yeah.
We'll have to try look.
Anything else you guys want to say?
That's it.
Just storage now. Wow. Should we go upstairs? Because that's beautiful. We're inside the old farmhouse where the guy who owned this property used to live, and it just really shows how It's crazy that my mom and my grandma had such intense, happy memories here when the house was pristine, and like, look at it now. It's literally shambles. So you definitely gotta be careful over here. The door's sealed shut. Is it a weird feeling having all these people that you kind of like knew leave?
It is kind of unreal, you know, to think that they're gone.
Yeah.
No more. So,
Yeah.
I think that was beautiful church.
It's the oldest living person from the church.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you got that going for
Yeah,
you.
that's a good thing though.
Yeah.
We were at the old big Bowery, and that's what it was called years ago. It's a building here with a floor and a foundation. People would come here and dance at the outdoor Bowery. Tickets were 10 cents a piece. There was always a ref, Dave, would come and kind of monitor and see what was going on. And, you know, there was always a little bit of drinking going on. So he would monitor and see where everybody was and what they were doing. And then eventually, he would probably round up a few of the people that were a little bit inebriated. Sometimes he would handcuff them to that tree. And they would have to sit there and wait for whoever drove them there, ready to take them home again. Dance was over, and they would round up these guys that were tied up to the tree, and the family would bring them home.
And that was the tree that they tied them to.
I think so.
Yeah.
It was a big sturdy tree.
Yeah. But it was smaller at that time,
Yeah.
so you could get people
Yeah.
actually handcuffed.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's so cool.
That's a really firm reminder of the stuff that disappears. It's like, this is literally now only a tree and dirt.
Yeah.
People used to come and dance and drink and celebrate, and now it's literally just a dirt pile and a tree. Maybe these flowers are growing because of all the good energy that was here one time.
Could be.
I think we're good. There we go.
I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree. A tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast. A tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray. I think I shall never see a poem. Stop it. A poem as lovely as a tree. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Good.
I was mesmerized.
I know. When did you memorize that?
Well, we had it in language class when I was in like 7th and 8th grade. So it was in this old poem book that we had in school. Joyce Kilmer wrote it, and it's been set to music, you know, and
Yeah.
I have the piece. Yeah, we had to learn, you know, so much poetry when we were in 7th and 8th grade. So that was one of my favorites.
And you've always loved trees.
Yes, I have.
After we had visited the tree, we had to say goodbye to my grandmother, and we headed back to South Dakota. After hearing all these stories about the haunting of my ancestors, I couldn't help but think about the fact that maybe it's the blood that flows in my veins that holds something spiritual, that helps connect my family with the afterlife. I guess it's something that I'll never fully understand. To really reach the bottom of why my family is so haunted, we had to return to Sioux Falls, to the house where I grew up, in order to gather my own family stories so that we could paint a full picture of the haunting that has plagued all of us from the moment we moved into this home. Let me tell you, this haunting never stopped, and I don't know if it ever will. Okay, so my name is Colin Browen, obviously, and this is my story about my haunted house that I lived in throughout pretty much all of high school. We built the house ourselves, and I 100% believe it to be haunted by something. I just don't know what it is. So the story of our house really begins in 2012, 2013, when my parents started building the house. This whole area used to just be a lot. There were houses that we had to move off of this land. They were donated to charity. And I actually filmed in the basement of one of those houses. It was completely derelict. It hadn't been lived in for about a decade. I filmed a horror movie about a satanic cult. And funny enough, this was when no one was living in the house and the police knew this. We were shooting a scene with a cult in the basement of the house, and we spray painted the walls with fake blood and made a huge pentagram on the wall. And the police actually thought that the people that were acting in the movie were a real cult, and they entered the house and took all my satanic paraphernalia. And I came in the next day and I was like, damn, did I just forget that I brought that home, or what happened to all my stuff? And we're like, oh, it's probably at the house. And it wasn't. And there was a cop outside of the house, and my mom and dad asked, like, why are you guys here? What are you doing? And they're like, brace yourselves. We're about to tell you something crazy. We believe that there's a satanic cult practicing black magic in that house right there. And they started laughing, and we're like, dude, that's our son, Colin. He's just making a horror film. And then they started laughing, and we had to go down to the actual county jail or wherever they were keeping it, the corrections area. And we had to get the boxes of stuff that they took. And it was like a dagger, a demon baby, all this stuff. So there's already like this whole satanic element in this abandoned house next door that got moved. But when we moved into the house, it was completely empty. It was, brand new. All the materials were new. There was some repurposed stuff, but overall, it was just, there was no history to the house. It was basically a skeleton that had no family and no history yet. So when we moved in, didn't expect anything too crazy to happen. We all, believed in spirits and whatnot, but we didn't expect the spirits to come, home with us. So my sister, as you probably heard at this point in the documentary, she had her first major experience on the very first day that we were moving in. As the first time she was in the house, and she heard the men's voices and the dishes moving in the kitchen. And I was with my parents, and we came back, and she was freaking out, and we all just thought, man, was she, just having some sort of a mental issue, or was there something else going on here? We didn't really think that it was spirits. It's a brand new house. But as time went on, I started to realize that I didn't feel fully comfortable in the house, which was strange because it was a brand new home, as I've said already. And it should have felt, like home, like a new adventure. But night after night, I was having these nightmares in my room where I was sleeping at the end of the hall. So you also got to realize the structure of the house. So at the end of this hallway over here, kind of what I'm looking at from where I'm being interviewed, is the hallway. And that's kind of the area where all the paranormal activity seems to stem from in the house. And it's a hallway that branches off in a T-shape to my sister's room and my room. And it's in this area, it seems to be a vortex of this activity that kept happening. So when I was down there at the beginning, I just thought it was, my room and whatnot. But as I started to put my decorations up and, spend every night there, I started to realize that something felt off about the room. Just being in there, it felt much darker than other rooms in the house straight off the bat. And a couple weeks in, I had my first real crazy experience. Tessa had been telling me from across the hall that she was hearing voices and footsteps in the hallway at night. And I had heard, little noises, like maybe a knock or two, but I just assumed that was part of a new house, growing into what it would become. But this one night, I specifically remember, and I've told this story before in interviews, but it just still blows my mind. I was in my bedroom asleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I heard someone out in the kitchen, which is weird because that's where Tessa heard these noises before, and I just yelled out. I said, "Mom, is that you out there?" And I heard someone actually respond to me, a female voice, that said, "Yeah." Like something like, I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was like a sentence or a couple words. And so I was like, "Can I have a glass of water?" And it once again said, "Yeah," some shit like that. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was saying yes. And I heard footsteps immediately from the kitchen walk over to my bedroom. And I'm thinking, damn, like, I didn't even get the glass of water. Why is she walking over here? It's weird. And the moment that these footsteps got to my bedroom door, it transformed from human footsteps into the sound of something shuffling on all fours around my bed in a big circle like this, like scratching on the carpet, which was obviously really scary. And I hopped, literally the moment that I heard that, hopped up and I grabbed my phone like, Mom, like, what are you doing? Like, what the hell? I turned my flashlight on, there's no one there. And my sister, Tessa, and my mom ran out of her room across the hall instantly into my room and said, "What's going on? Why are you being so loud?" And they had both been asleep that entire time. And those are the only two women in the house. So that was definitely a really creepy experience. And that was the first time that I really, started to get spooked out. But it only got worse from there. I started to see shadow figures in the room, very tall, one or two at a time. Always, I'd be looking through my blinds and I could see the moon coming through and the light from the moon. And I could always see these figures. And this one time I saw the figure, literally clear as day, standing right there in front of my blinds. And I'm like, I'm so skeptical about some of this stuff that it's like, in my mind, rationally, I was like, there's no way this can be happening. That's not a shadow figure or, a person standing there. But I just remember, it's when you think about like a horror movie and you say like, why aren't you screaming right now? You're about to be killed. Or like you're trying to judge a character based on what they're doing when they're supposed to be extremely frightened. Having an experience like that in real life really shows you that your mind does not act rationally when these things happen to you. For example, when I saw that shadow figure, I'm sitting there in bed, like laying back, and this thing actually, for the first time that night, started like gliding towards my bed at a very slow pace. And I'm sitting there staring at it, watching it get bigger and bigger as it's like coming towards me. And I'm thinking like, dude, I need to turn the light on, But I was so afraid that I couldn't move any part of my body. And it just kept getting closer and closer. And like, I finally just snapped out of it and I reached, I turned my lamp on and it disappeared. So that was like, once again, these things kept happening night after night. And my sister Tessa and I were telling my parents, like, dude, there's something going on here. And they didn't believe us. It was like a horror movie where the characters are, saying, oh man, like I'm hearing and seeing this stuff. And the parents or someone's like, oh no, you're just seeing things, blah, blah, blah. But then eventually it happened to them. And after they had their experiences, we finally thought it was time to talk to Donna. And Donna is the family friend psychic. She's been in a lot of episodes of the show. So my mom and I went to get a reading from her one day, and without us even bringing up the house, she said, I think you have 2 male figures in your house. And that was really creepy because we hadn't told her anything about what we had been experiencing. And so my mom and I ended up that day going down to the courthouse in Sioux Falls, like we did in the Lost Graves episode. We went down there. And my mom and I went upstairs and talked to the historians there at the courthouse and asked them if we could see the city records and the planning spreadsheets for the city from back in what would have been the 1800s when there were pioneers and people living on small ranches and homesteads out here. And they found a building that was on the property. It was an old house, a log cabin most likely owned by a family. And we actually found the names of the family members, and strangely enough, this is what was so bizarre to us. In this family, there was a mom, a daughter, a father, and a son. Now, the mother and the daughter had birth, death, and burial records that they knew at the courthouse where they were buried, but the father and son only had the birth records. So these historians there at the courthouse theorized that the father and the son were potentially buried somewhere on our land and had been there for a long time because they didn't know where they were buried, and maybe they had gotten a disease or something like that, and before a cemetery was established, they had actually just been buried somewhere around here. And there's also this history of Native American encampments right along the river, so there were camps made by Native Americans, and they said that there was potential that the house was built on artifacts, that it could have, dug through stuff like that, and they could have accidentally destroyed something like that. Potentially even, they didn't think that they could have destroyed a body, but they could have if they dug through it, and that these construction companies just want to get through with the projects and get the money. So that was really strange to us, and this all culminated with this activity getting worse and worse, me seeing these shadow figures, hearing voices, footsteps. I'm talking like a horror movie level of activity. My sister and I were like at our wits' end, and the day before my birthday, we had Donna and 3 of her psychic medium friends that she works with come over, and we walked room through the entire house. She cleansed the home, and we thought that it was all over after that. Well, that night our internet went out, our electricity went out for a while, and it was my birthday, so I had friends over, and at about 2-3 in the morning, we were all downstairs asleep. We heard this massive just bang on the window, like super loud. It shook the whole house. My parents came running downstairs, like, what the hell happened? Like, you guys okay? And none of us knew what it was. It was snowing out. And we looked for a bird to see if a bird had hit any of the windows. There's no bird, there's no animal, there's no tracks. That's why I said it was snowing, because we could see if there was tracks or if a bird had hit the window and died. There's nothing. It was all fresh snow. And so the next day we were at a restaurant here in Sioux Falls, and we go into the restaurant, and the only people in this entire place, like literally the only people eating there, were the psychics from the day before, Donna and her friends, and they were eating there. And we're like, what are you guys doing here? They're like, oh, great to see you. And before we could say anything to them, Donna asked me, did you guys have a bang on your window around 2 or 3 in the morning? And like all of our faces just dropped. We're like, yeah, we did. And she just looked at us and said, we all had the same thing happen. That's why we're here talking about it. We thought that maybe that was the energy releasing or giving us a sign that it was leaving, but it happened to all of us, and we were freaked out. And it's crazy that you showed up here and said that that happened to you, because that just correlates everything.
I think when we realized that both Colin and Tessa were feeling uncomfortable in the house, and everybody just was kind of on edge, the kids didn't want to be in the house alone, and it was affecting both of them, losing sleep, having to get up for school. And Donna's always been a friend of our family, and so Colin and I had just an appointment with Donna, and then that's when she started to tell us about the history and that there were 2 male presents in the house. Presences.
Spirits? I don't know.
Which totally freaked us out.
So we ended up having Donna come over and I guess cleanse the house and help us work through what spirits were here based on the land that we built the house on, and not really the house itself. And in the end, it just felt like she did cleanse the house. It felt lighter and just, like there wasn't really anything here after that, So that's kind of what I remember, is that just it felt light and cheery to me, I guess would be maybe a word, instead of kind of gloomy or dark.
It had gotten a lot better, and we really didn't have any activity for maybe a couple months, maybe up to about a year, and then slowly things started to happen again.
So after it got cleansed, can you talk about how you felt?
I guess when Donna came and cleansed our house, I was very scared and nervous because she said a lot of the activity was happening in my room, in Colin's room. So I felt kind of relieved that she said they were harmless spirits, but I guess from then after the activity kind of lessened and we didn't see or hear that much a whole lot after, so I think she would probably helped in the long run, but we still hear stuff from time to time, so it's still happening. But even more recently, me and my best friend were staying in my basement, and it was really late at night. I'd say well into 2 a.m. And we were just watching TV, hanging out, and it was pitch dark all around the house and no lights were on. And basically we just heard a dragging on the floor. It sounded like someone or something was being dragged across the floor. And so we both just kind of paused the movie and stopped and looked at each other, and we were really freaked out. And it lasted for about 30 seconds, and so we got really creeped out and yelled to see if anyone was there, if my dad was being stupid or anything, and no one was there. So we got super freaked out and obviously went upstairs and slept, but there's been several times where we've heard dragging across the floor and footsteps, so pretty creepy.
Even recently, you've found some nights it's kind of hard to stay in your room.
Yeah, even recently, I've heard different footsteps in the kitchen. There's always something happening in this house, and there's always activity.
So this is what you had that night?
This is it. I just kind of opened the door. Yeah, I heard some bangs outside the window.
This is my last night ever in our house. I'm here alone in the house. It's pitch black. I've turned out all the lights. I know you've always wanted something from me. So what was it that you wanted? The hell was that?
There's somebody here. She's been in this house probably for about a year. Can you help me?
Got a fresh scratch right there.
He was not a very nice guy. He was mean.
And really, speak to him on his level. And just tell him to get the hell out of here.
Hello!